guests this evening are Miesha Johnston and Steve Colbern. And Miesha is a fantastic, she's so advanced on so many different levels here with what she's been involved in lately, but she's a second generational experiencer beginning at age of 3. She's had numerous contacts and abductions. She's had missing time throughout her life. I can go down her long bio, but I'm going to streamline a little bit here. But she's a certified hypnotherapist, and she specializes in trauma release hypnosis and regressions. She facilitates 12 experiential support groups each month, and 2 are in her private residence. The others are 3 times a week on private internet and in the live chat rooms at Zoom chat. And you can access all this information on her Facebook page. You can go ahead and friend her or find her on Starseeds Awakening. And she also has a weekly radio show every Saturday on Starseed Awakening at KCOR. You can tune in for that one. She's also a cast member of iVolve Television Transcending Reality Show. We'll find out what's going on with that. And there's I hope I covered everything, but we'll get into it anyway if we haven't. She does have a new book out that we're going to discuss a little bit here on covert abductions, military harassment, surveillance, interrogation, and mind control. That's Volume 1, Autobiography of a Survivor. She just went live with that book, so we're going to get into that tonight as well. And Steve Colbern's one of my regular, I call him my science officer these days because he's always on board with me every few months. And Steve Colbern is a chemist and chief material scientist with over 20 years of industrial experience. He is currently working in the area of carbon nanotubes. Steve Colbern has analyzed several alleged alien implants that the late Dr. Roger Lear had removed from his patients and has uncovered startling findings. Steve's research discovered that these objects contain carbon nanotubes and other nanostructures, indicating that they are sophisticated nano-devices made by a level of nanotechnology far beyond that of current mainstream earthly science. Steve is constantly being asked to research and evaluate specimens that people bring to him, and he takes his scientific research very seriously and is dedicated to proving the truth about nanotechnology and all it contains. He was someone who he actually measured my implant analysis. He did the implant analysis with my documentary, Eye the Remote, A Disclosure in Covert Technology. He's fantastic. So, and his website is alienevidenceinc.webs.com. So please welcome both Miesha and Steve to the show this evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, hi. Hi. It's wonderful to hear both of you. And Miesha, if I did anything to cut that down, just go ahead and just chime in.
You did great. Okay. That's perfect.
Good.
I didn't want you to read the whole long thing.
I know. I you know what? I have to streamline bios these days. I'm the same way too. I'm just like, I'm an alien. Just hide the antenna and let's just field it. So what have you both been up to? I know, Miesha, you've been super busy.
Yes, I have. Working on the second volume, and I'm trying my best to have it for the UFO symposium here on the 22nd in Las Vegas, but I'm not sure, but I'm going to have it by the end of the month for the conference that I'm actually speaking at, which is the Cosmic Highway Conference, July 28th through the 30th. And that is, if I may say, a very cool conference. You know, the conferences I love are the ones that like in the old days, I was at conferences that were out at Rachel, Nevada. Mm-hmm. And they were great because they were campouts, right? And everybody was just even, right? And there were no big shots, and even though they have good speakers, they've got David Adair, Will Champion, Richard Smith, Jim Myers, Hannah and Mary, who have been on my show. All of these people have, mm-hmm. and Larry Messalina, and of course myself. I just think this is going to be a really exciting conference, and it is so inexpensive. I mean, a person can go for the whole weekend and camp for $65.
That's a really nice deal. Yeah, that's great.
It's a great deal.
And where's the location again? How can they do that, Miesha?
That is at UFOWatchtowerEvents.com. And that's in Hooper, Nevada, which is, I don't know, but it's the border of Colorado and New Mexico.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And I'm going to be doing a Vector 5 Star Watch, CE5 Star Watch out there. They're going to be having meteor showers, 2 meteor showers that weekend. And then I'm also going to have experiencer groups every morning. So, hey guys, please check the website and come on out. I think you're going to love it because it's just a bunch of people having fun. So that's what I've been doing is right now. And of course, with all my groups and everything else. Wonderful. And I have one more new thing I might just pop in and tell you that I'm with Tana Newberry. I am working, we are actually ready to get it out and to the public, but it is ET Experiencer cards. Those are Oracle cards. So for people who are readers, and they've got messages on them and things like that. In fact, she was using them today at group, and I think they'll be really great. They're pretty beautiful cards. She's the one that really did all the work.
Are you talking about Hana?
No, Tana.
Oh, Tana. Okay, because I know Hana and they actually have some cards too. They're coming up with 2 oracle cards.
Oh, I think everybody had this message out in the ethers, and I
gave her the message. Actually, when she was on my radio show. Go ahead.
But Mary and Hannah have a beautiful deck of oracle cards that they are doing all their hand-drawn, beautiful pictures and stuff. So that's pretty exciting things happening right now.
Sounds fantastic. Well, you sound great. And what about you, Steve? What's going on in your sector?
Well, continuing to follow that lady's case I was talking about back east in New Hampshire, and she's got a lot of UFO activity from a possible base about a mile from her house, and now she says that there's some possible Bigfoot activity on the property, which I found kind of interesting because there's long been thought to be a connection between them and UFOs. I kind of think that maybe the aliens used them for heavy work on board ship or something along those lines. But in the event, it was kind of interesting, and I'm also preparing to go to that same Watchtower conference that Miesha just talked about.
Excellent! So you are going to be there. Good.
Yeah.
Yahoo!
Excellent. Very good.
Hopefully, do some good scans on people over there, and I've been working on my book and just putting out fires in my personal life, and that's about it for now.
Well, you sound great. You also sound very good. So that sounds like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing here, and the implant analysis scan are very, very much needed, and for everybody who's involved in trying to figure out what's going on here when they get inducted or something like that. So, and Miesha, you also had Steve over at your group a little bit here and there. He was doing implant analysis scans, right?
Yes, he was. Yeah. In fact, I'm hoping he comes back again, because I've got some people already are asking for another scan, because you have another experience, or they want another scan.
Yeah.
Very good.
If you want this to be like a regular every 6-month scheduled thing or something, I'd be happy to do that. Or
that'd be great. That would be great.
When you get enough people together, then I'd be happy to come out again.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it was really wonderful and important, and for us that it was amazing that he did the scans right after 3 of us here at the house had an abduction or something.
Oh, really? Another one
or something?
You went through something recently?
Yeah, when Steve is here, and we had an experience. It was kind of weird, and don't really have any memories, but we just thought, let's scan, or let's scan. And so when we scanned, including himself and Steve and myself, Steve was a roommate here. We all had markings, and I haven't seen him, so Steve might be able to explain that better.
Yeah,
which Steve? Okay, go ahead.
One night. It kind of looked that way from the scan and the results with dive marks on us.
Very interesting. And you obviously had some kind of a collective as a dream, or what you do? What exactly happened? Do you have recall of anything?
Yeah, a couple of us had some hazy possible recall of some stuff. And I think we all had dive markings on us, as I recall, and just felt kind of out of sorts the next day, kind of like you usually do after an abduction, like drugged or hungover.
Yeah, real tired. Very, very. All of us were real tired, and I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed, and I was actually kind of surprised, because I don't think I have any experiences anymore, but I don't know now.
Well, you're so involved in it nowadays, I wouldn't be surprised if something was going on. You're constantly absorbed in the energy of it, so I would assume that something would happen on some level. Yeah, makes sense to me anyway. Definitely. And I know. Go ahead.
Let people go. I mean, they told me. I remember them telling me that this was a lifetime thing. That it's going to continue till the day you die.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes for everything when it comes down to anything covertly done or extraterrestrial, if you want to call it that. But yeah. They definitely don't leave you alone once you get pulled into some of these projects. I'm sure you all know that. So go ahead.
Even though, I'd like to ask both of you, excuse me, even though you have potentially, you thought anyway, canceled your contracts, because back in 2000, I actually went in front of a council because I was having so many terrible military abductions and warnings and threats, and of my life, and an automobile accident, ran off the road, and all kinds of crazy things that and then they started making threats with my family, and I decided to get out of it. And I asked them to please let me out, and they said, well, paraphrasing here of what happened in the experience, but they said, well, we can't do that because you have to complete your mission, but what we can do is help you cancel your contracts. Now, I've lately, as of yet, in the last maybe 2 years, said, you know what, I want my ET contacts back. I didn't do anything formally. I just said, I'm ready to have them back. So maybe that was me, because it is a free will thing. And I said, I want it back. So maybe, but I said, no government. But of course, that isn't exactly the same either, because there was one of those group ones. So I don't know.
Right. Well, you can release vows and contracts, whether it's multidimensional or whatever it is here on the timeline, or even simultaneously from a past, present, or future lifetime. So you definitely can release vows and contracts. I encourage that. I used to do a lot of DNA activation with people, and definitely. But when people actually do violate your free will, which is what we're running into with the covert intel, they're violating our free will. They're actually creating their own contracts on our behalf, and that is not okay. So that's an entanglement program that needs to be resolved. And I don't know about you, Steve, but I know that you've been tracked by government, because there's no way you cannot be involved with what you're doing here. The way your work is so critical, obviously you're going to be hassled. So what's going on with you?
Well, back in 2015, I've mentioned this before, but I might as well mention it again for this new audience. Back in June of 2015, I had some sort of a horrific abduction where my ankle was my right ankle was broken, and the ankle joint was severely damaged, and messed up my knee, and did a lot of damage to the main vein in that leg, and I got a big blood clot, and they said there was a 30% chance I might die, and I had to go to the hospital and go on anticoagulants, and then it was a big mess. And Miesha actually did regressive hypnosis on me, and we found out that it was not an alien abduction; it was a government abduction. I remember seeing guys under hypnosis that were in black NSA-looking uniforms in the background, and they put some sort of steel gauntlets on my legs, and pumped them up to what felt like about 150 psi pressure, and that hurt intensely. And I remember freaking out from the pain, and then waking up. I'd been taking a nap in my motorhome. I woke up and was all groggy and thought maybe it was all a dream, and then went back to sleep and got up and found out it wasn't a dream. And took me about 10 months to recover, and at least I'm still here. I think it might have been an assassination attempt, to making it look like an accident.
Yeah,
sounds try that again.
Right. Well, hopefully they won't. But we are protected by divine forces, and even our multidimensional design. I think we're a lot more powerful than people realize. I know that where I've been, I could have been. I'm amazed I'm still here, quite honestly. And it's only by divine law that I'm here. There's no other reason, really. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I have reason to believe that the aliens are protecting me, but I wish they would protect me well enough to keep me out of the hands of government people.
Right. Yeah.
But,
well, there's an awful lot of talk going on right now, and I'd like both of your opinions about this one, or your perception of what's going on with the mainstream propaganda UFO communities, and so far as all the talking heads all coagulating, and there seem to be monopolizing what's going on. And in my opinion, I think a lot of it's disinformation, and it's watering and kind of taking away from the truth. So what do you think? What do both of you think about that?
We're in the midst of yet another government crackdown on this field. I mean, it goes in cycles. About every 5 years, they have a real bad crackdown in the field with people getting hassled, sometimes people getting injured or killed, accidents, quote unquote, people getting licenses revoked for unrelated things, and car accidents, and disinformation coming out, and legitimate people getting shouted down by people that say they're lying, and reputation ruining, and all that sort of stuff that the covert community and the government engages in with groups that they don't want talking freely. So that's been happening since the 1950s in the UFO field, and unfortunately it's continuing, even though certain people think that there might be disclosure soon. But I don't think there's going to be any disclosure unless the aliens disclose personally.
Well, we are the aliens, so don't forget that. We are the star people. Go ahead, Miesha. It is true.
Well,
Go ahead.
You know, I would agree with him. There is a lot of this going on where pointing fingers, but there is also some very wild things coming out that are really hard to believe. And I'm not saying that I don't believe some of it, but some of it is just really wild. I mean, they're even doing conventions that are completely in these themes, and I'm not really going to say exactly what
I know
it
what you're talking about. It's okay.
But and I'm not going to say names, but you got to have some proof somewhere. I mean,
correct.
Yeah. So I had 8 months of missing time, and I have a marriage license to prove that I was married and taken off, and that's how they conned my family into it, losing me for an 8 months. So I got a little bit of, I've got some proof. And a lot of these people that are coming out, they have no proof. And I guess just recently there was a couple of people that someone sent me a link. I tuned into it, and it was like right on air. The host said, "You're fake," which isn't the way I would handle it. But these particular people had been going on and on with some major yarns to the degree that people were out there worried that something's going to happen to the earth. It was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. There's a lot of people out there who are watering things down, and the disinformation is off the charts. And also, it's about money and control. I see a lot of people like we don't have to mention the names of these individuals, and it doesn't even matter if we do or we don't, but there's a lot of hoopla about Antarctica, as you all know, and I have my own, all I can tell you about Antarctica is I know it's a jump point, and I know there's anti-gravity involved. I can't give you the information about these other people that are saying that there's Nephilim there and there's a stasis that they're being activated. I can't prove that. I have no idea. That's coming from other people and other sources. I don't know what your perception is on that. I mean, I don't discount other species, but I think that we need more than that. When I went through my induction and when I went through what I went through, I can prove the technology. I can prove that the parties involved were involved, even though they tried very, very hard to shove it under the carpet. So, when I look at what's going on today, this is just, it's just like anything goes. So what's your impression of that whole thing with Antarctica, both of you?
Well, I think that my perception is, I believe that there is some interdimensional and certainly possibly groups like Garthans and stuff that do live under our planet and in our planet, I should say. This particular one that they talked about was again one of these huge, unbelievable yarns with no proof.
Correct.
There's been, here's ships and here's this being and here's this, but nothing has come out that this is real. So until I see a little proof, I just don't know. I think it's just, I'd have to wait and see. It's just like the one that I saw just recently about this white 3-fingered alien that it was all a big ding. It was going to be, I'm going to say that was Gaia TV.
Dummy to me. I mean, I didn't believe
it looked like total BS.
From the very beginning, it looked like
yes. Thank you.
But they had a lot of people join their station, I'm sure, from it. But it was sad. That was kind of crap.
Well, like I said, we look to the skies for the answers, but we are the answers, and we have it all within ourselves and our atoms and our consciousness. If we didn't have the covert intelligence programs and all this indoctrination programming trying to control, manipulate what we are and what we think, we would actually know this automatically. It wouldn't be a problem. So, once again, when you see these little critters coming out with these, the 3-finger looking like the regular kind of, I don't know, I guess it looked kind of like a gray. I'm getting tired of that because honestly, you all know that we are star people and we can look just like us and be these advanced species. But we've been dumbed down and lied to, this whole collective on this timeline. And that's what we're doing here. We're awakening people to the fact that, hey, you don't have to look to the stars for who you are. We are the star people. We're not supposed to be here. So I can go on and on about it. But what do you say, Steve?
Yeah, I think that my working hypothesis all along has been that that most people that have a lot of abduction activity are part alien. I know that their MO appears to be to abduct pregnant women from bloodlines they're interested in, and and genetically modify the fetus to be more to their liking. So also, we just have a lot of subtle differences from normal people. We don't like crowds, and we tend to like the dark rather than the light, and have in general longer digits and larger eyes. There's a propensity for having green eyes among abductees, and we tend to feel things on the emotional level. We tend to feel things deeper than normal people do, and we tend to be very psychic, much more intelligent, and there seems to be a propensity for people that have a lot of abduction activity to be either allergic to everything and intolerant to any kind of chemicals or allergens in their environment, or to be resistant to everything to the point where it's like they're much harder to kill by poisoning than normal people, and one or the other. And I'd say that we tend to be physically stronger, and think differently, kind of use psychic insight in addition to logic, and arrive at conclusions a lot more easily than normal people do. Some things that are a no-brainer to us are clear as mud to a lot of normals. Just stuff like that. It's very subtle. I mean, I think one of these days we will have proof. There's no doubt in my mind that this is true, but we do need to do some genetic analysis to find out for sure. And as far as Antarctica is concerned, I think we do have some indirect evidence that something strange is going on down there. Like the Germans were the number one people in Antarctic research before the war, and they actually claimed about 2/3 of Antarctica before the war and called it New Swabenland. And they reported finding caverns near the South Pole and areas that were heated by volcanic action that were not that cold and ice-free. And they also reportedly made some kind of a colony in these caverns. And there's no direct proof that ever occurred, but there's persistent rumors. There's also recent reports by military people that have spent time at the South Polar Base that we have down there, that flew over that area and saw a large cavern entrance of some kind, and there's a restricted airspace around there as well. And there's been a lot of UFO sightings there. And the final piece of evidence that something's going on down there, as far as anti-gravity technology, if nothing else, is that Admiral Byrd sent a large force in 1946 down to Antarctica to try to kick the Germans out of this colony that they reportedly had down there, and got their butts kicked by UFOs. I don't know if aliens were associated with them, but the Germans definitely had anti-gravity technology before the end of the war, probably from contact with the Greys back in 1932, after they found a crash disk.
Right, and that's why it's so important to have that. Well, the real society where we have access to these other species through multidimensional states of consciousness. And this is why the secret societies and the mystery school teachings were so important, because they understand the mechanics of the cosmic design. They understand how to navigate, but we are and can be the conduits and also the communicators between dimensional spaces. And I think that's also another thing, when you're talking about acquiring data and interfacing with other species like Miesha, she does the galactic language. That's something that's really unique, because when you have these abilities and you're shining and your DNA is being activated and you're able to navigate through these other states of consciousness, that'll put you on the radar with covert intelligence without a doubt. Anybody, that's a threat to national security, because you're acquiring data that's not something that they can control. And so that's once again when they have the military abductions.
You're not supposed to know a lot of the stuff that the aliens tell you. So,
but the thing is, we know all, see all. The universe hides nothing from us. It's mankind that's hiding everything. It's these covert intelligence programs that are hiding everything. The history of man, which is tainted from the eyes of the universe, or as seen from the eyes of the universe. But Miesha, do you have anything to add?
Well, I did want to chime in on what you were talking about? And there was a few of those things that I really did not know about how us being starseed / hybrids, with the green eyes, for instance. I mean, I've been seeing that so much, and and I don't know about the actual blood type, but definitely I see the genetic line and such. And I also see that people have a lower blood pressure. They have a lower body temperature.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of what some people want to say is learning disabilities in there, the ADD, ADHD, the dyslexia, even autism and Asperger's. I've seen that very prevalent too.
But it's often normal for us because we don't learn the same as normals do. We don't read things out of a book, and that's the only information source we have. We use psychic sources as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But that's a really good point, and that's true. I do remember those things that are happening. I mean, that have been happening with the Germans, and of course with Admiral Byrd. But so yeah, you're right. There probably is something. I guess I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that because the sources that are talking about it I don't trust, then therefore I'm not trusting the whole thing. Because you're right, it's a real good point. There is a lot of things, and there's definitely something to the Antarctica.
Right.
I just wish we'd find some other people to do the research.
Well, you just find you basically. Go ahead, Steve.
The sources you're talking about are probably disinformation to muddy the waters, but Antarctica, it's hard to get reliable reports out of there because the whole continent is pretty much shrouded in secrecy. It's a UN scientific zone, and governments control it, and the public isn't allowed there.
Yeah, UN needs to go. That's the biggest problem we have is we don't want anything to do with them. So that's what I can tell you point blank. And then what the problem is too, I don't necessarily think they have control over the area. I think they're trying to dominate it. That's another thing. When you're dealing with off-world species, I'm sorry, but we're at the bottom of the totem pole here in the illusion of this planet. So I don't think that they have the power that they think they have here, even our best military and our black science departments. I don't really think they have the power they want to have. I think that they're really struggling and trying to create territories, and that's another thing. So, that should be interesting to watch it. But what I would encourage people to do is follow your instincts and your own intuition, your own remote viewing skills, and look into it yourself, because you're all star people. I mean, I can access Antarctica, and I get my own hits on data. I don't share a lot of it, but I don't sit there and start running my mouth about stuff that, I can't really prove any of that stuff. But I do know the anti-gravity jump points. That I understand, and I understand the mechanics behind it. So that's beyond physics, and that's something that actually they can even prove that if we were to go out there, we could find it. But, all the stuff that's going on right now, I think that people have the abilities to access, just like we do when we look to the stars, we understand consciousness. We can get that data through the Flight Akashic. There's nothing hidden for us. There's nothing. It's there if we want it.
Well, that's part of the reason I do believe that there's an alien/German colony near the South Pole, is because I've tried to remote view it before, and just seem to get hits consistent with that. I just see I see a large entrance to a large underground cavern that's fairly warm, and both Germans and a few aliens there working together. So
I see you are a remote viewer, Steve. You do remote view, right? Because I know you have visions. Okay, yeah, you're pretty good. You can get in.
Which aliens was that? Which aliens?
The Greys and a few reptilians.
Yeah, I knew there was reptilians in there. That was the hit I got, that there was reptilians. So I was curious to see what you thought.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Well, I'd love to travel over there. If they'd be able to get over there. I've always said I'd like to get over there and access it myself. There's so many things I'd like to do, and it's really unfortunate because what I'm seeing here, and I'm sure you can relate, Steve, and Miesha, you haven't had this as much probably, but there's been a real sabotage for those of us who have a lot of information and access normally through consciousness, and we find that people try to run interference in our lives to a point where they try to derail us from what we're here to do. And I've run into that, obviously, with a lot of things that happened to me. I know Steve has. I don't know if it's happened to you a whole lot, Miesha. I know in the early days you probably did, right?
In the early days, even now, I can count at least 3 different times that they've tried to come in and take over my group and destroy me, or break up the group here locally.
You have infiltrators. There's no doubt. I know that just from helping you out and poking my head in
watch out for that
as a co-facilitator. You have to scan them. You have to filter them. Absolutely. That goes for all of you. And anybody out there who's legitimate, you've got to watch out because they're out there. Yeah.
Well, the last time they tried to destroy me was besides this latest ankle breaking incident was in my divorce. I mean, I know for a fact that my ex was working with the feds. A PI I hired told me. I don't know what she told him or what she did or whatever, but they were bugging my telephones and giving her the data, and she gave him some wild story, and I don't know what the hell was going on, but excuse me, but I don't know what was going on, but it wasn't good, whatever it was, and I haven't had much success in the job market since then. I feel like I've been blackballed or something. I hope that's not the case.
And you're so intelligent. That's another thing too. I mean, I wish I had the money of Elon Musk because I would have my kick-ass, and I can say that on air, really nice team of people to work and do research that's beyond what people even do in the space programs and the black space programs. Because you know what the difference is between us and them? They're controlled and brainwashed. We've been through programs. We've been through a lot of things. And we've been indoctrinated to some degree with mind control, but it doesn't affect us. We're way beyond their spectrum. And that's one thing I've noticed. Even these intel, these guys, these, what I call the gray hats, because there's no black hat or white hat anymore. They're all gray. The bottom line is they're compromised. They have about 20 to 30 alters. You know that they're just so messed up on a psychological scale. You can't work for these divisions and be normal. So the one thing is that I can see is that we really do have stability. We're very stable people, even though we're expanded in consciousness. We're very analytical, all of us. And it would be nice to see that, but I have seen the sabotage going on. I mean, I've experienced it myself. You guys know that. I don't have to go into details about it, but I mean, I've had doors open, and as fast as they open, somebody wants to slam it, especially when it comes to me getting any more exposure than I've had that even connects close, which I can't stand mainstream anyway, but I can tell you point blank. And a lot of it has to do with my case. A lot of it has to do with other things. But you know what? I don't care. I keep ascending and I keep going. And that's one of the reasons I push people writing their own books, is because the truth will never be out there unless you put it into print and you get it out there as a time capsule, like what Miesha did. Miesha has she has her information out there, but you put it in a book called Covert Abductions, Military Harassment, Surveillance, Interrogation, and Mind Control. And that's your volume 1. And that's important because it's an autobiography of a survivor, which is you. But people need to know that this is in print. They need to see this, that without mainstream publishers sitting there trying to say, well, you can't say that and you can't say this. Oh, we'll edit this out. You know what? Enough already. We've got to get the facts. We've got to get the facts.
Enough already.
Yeah. And, an interesting thing about that book, I have to say, is, yes, I did have some interference just the day before I was to publish it. Yes, I ended up in the hospital, and the attack I had was like I'd had a year before when I started writing the book in the first place, and I ended up 10 days in the hospital for that. This time was only 5 days, but it was a pancreatitis. I don't have pancreatitis. Once I got into the hospital, they couldn't find pancreatitis any place in my body other than in my I think it's called some kind of a blood test or something. But they could. What's that? I never thought about that. But I do know that some good friends of mine helped me get through it with some teas and some turmeric and some other things that they did stop the damage from it happening. I mean, it was happening. There was already damage, but it wasn't near as severe as the last time. And I know it was an attack, and I could tell it was an attack. I mean, first of all, I thought it was a heart attack. So I believe, like one of the so many people there who are targeted get these things that they think are a heart attack. What they are is they're faking something, faking like a heart attack, so that they can get to whatever maybe might be a weakest part of your body, and that's I'm sure what happened.
Right. And did you say you were feeling something that felt like a pulsation, like a directed energy weapon?
Wave.
Okay, so that to me, that definitely is
that's a pain that just kept coming. And weird thing about it is, I called my friends and they said, get out of the bed and get away from the bed in case it's coming at you there. When I did, we moved across the room. There was a difference in it. It took a while before I felt the wave again, but it's kind of like it lost the like connection. Yeah, I definitely think so. So now that I know, it's not going to happen to me again because I made a lot of precautions for it. And
Well, you have to be careful, and I will say that the directed energy weapons and the psychotronic weapons and the covert harassment program is full speed ahead right now. It's I mean I don't know about you, Miesha, but I've had what's that?
Yeah, they have a beam weapon that causes heart attacks too.
Yeah, of course they do. Well, I'm not going to mention the person, but what you're describing, Miesha, would happen to a scientist who was pretty well known, who they were trying to give him a heart attack, and he rolled out of the way, and it was at a hotel. I can't go into the specifics about it, but he actually he rolled out of the way of the transmission where they were actually hitting him with a directed energy weapon. But that's what I mean by people. I mean, this is not a game. These guys they're at war with everybody. Apparently they're at war with us. There's no doubt about it. So, Steve, one thing that you were mentioning, now you said that you thought Miesha might have been poisoned. What indicated that?
Just a gut feeling, and I know they have substances that will irritate your pancreas. I don't remember what they are at the moment. I'm gonna look it up after the show. But I just got a gut feeling, just a flash that she'd been poisoned. And,
that's very interesting. Well, that's highly possible.
So then you'd say that they did some way to poison me, and then use the frequency as well, or would it just been?
Or even the frequency could even actually, if they
you can do anything you can do with a drug or a poison, you can do with a frequency.
Correct.
You know
even put you in an altered space of consciousness.
Because you can induce any disease with these frequencies, or cure any disease with these frequencies, or do just about anything in between that drugs can do.
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
yeah, that's the whole thing. Well, it's like the reverse of the Rife medicine. It's literally a weaponized version because the vibration and frequency is used for healing, but now they're trying to use it as a weaponization. Yeah, you're spot on, Steve. And once again, I remember I had the toxicity with radiation. How did I get that? Right? Was I at a nuclear plant anytime? No.
Well, I have reason that I have reason to believe we're exposed to a lot of radiation on these abductions. I know when I was having a lot of abductions back in 2010, I put a dosimeter near my nightstand, and it registered like 10 rads at one point just from a couple abductions that I went on. So either we're extremely resistant, or they give us substances to make us resistant, or I don't know what the exact mechanism of protection is, but they must protect us somehow. We must have been exposed to thousands of rads if we're exposed to like 10 rads on each abduction.
Yeah, I truly believe that they are doing things that are protecting us. We are healthier. I mean, I am for sure. But then you'll see these odd markings, and you don't have any like bad feeling about the experience, but I think that they're doing their own kind of, let's say, vaccination against the chemtrails and all the other things that were.
I think they are too. I mean, I know that they told me that I'm resistant to radiation and chemicals compared to most people, and that's what I was saying before, that there's a class of abductee that's highly resistant to these things, and some that are not. The ones that are not seem to be more psychic than the ones that are. That's just a personal observation of mine. And I think Solaris, you had a really good point a while back, saying that we're more stable than normals. They think of us as crazy or not very stable, but I think the opposite is true. The fact that we're reasonably sane after all the stuff we've gone through is proof of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can ride these waves, these multidimensional technological waves. Are you kidding? Yeah. No, I mean, it would drive most people into an insane asylum, and that's the thing. Yep, absolutely. When I look and see where I've been and how I've walked through that, man, I feel like I can't even describe it, but I'm very, very grounded. And it takes an awful lot. And they've pushed, believe me, they've pushed over the years. So, but one thing I would like to ask you, and both of you actually, Miesha, when people come to your groups, and I'm talking more about the contactees, what exactly is an indicator that these guys are they're being contacted? Is it a telepathy? Is it missing time? What exactly happens to these people? And both of you can answer.
Okay, well, they'll come to a group and they'll start immediately talking with emotion about an experience. It might be a dream, or it might be just this flash or a memory or something that's going on. But I can feel that emotion that they have that is attached to it. A lot of times dreams are just a way for us to handle and process abductions or contacts. And I just kind of feel that's what it is for me. What about you?
How about you, Steve?
What do you remember after an abduction, or?
Well, just when contactees come to you, what do you look for exactly?
Oh, well, I scan them with the equipment and look for evidence of metal under the skin, EV fluorescent dyes indicating abduction within a month or so, and I give them a questionnaire that tends to show up people that have had abduction experiences. They tend to have strange phobias, like against large insects, spiders, bright lights. They tend to have either positive or negative reactions to pictures of aliens. There's like a 70 questionnaire I give them, and just based on their answers to that, I decide what the relative probability of them being a contactee or an abductee is, and whether or not they have a lot of activity.
Yeah. I agree. That's also what I do. I have a experience. Mine's only 52 or so. Wow, we need to maybe check with each other and see if you find new ones, because I need to upgrade mine. But that's also a way, is asking them questions and everything. When people come into my group, we usually have a topic. And it's so interesting because people will come in with their experiences, and you ask them a few questions, that are on the flyer and such as that. And before long, you can really tell if somebody is. Now, you can also, I found out, I can tell if somebody isn't. And if I get that feeling that they could be an infiltrator, it's just one of the things I do. I dowse. I dowse with a crystal pendulum, and I check that way. If I'm getting some funny feeling about it, I get a confirmation from my higher self through my pendulum. So
there's like 4 classes of people that come to these groups or conventions. There's real abductees that are reasonably sane. There's real abductees that have been driven insane by their experiences. I've met a lot of those. And there's wannabes that are just trying to talk themselves into it, to convince themselves that they're abductees because they're mentally ill, or they want to feel special, or there's a lot of reasons.
Copycats, yeah.
And then there's infiltrators.
You're right.
You have to be able to tell the difference between those 4 types.
I so agree.
These.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that one. Well, I appreciate what you're doing with the contactee group, Miesha. The groups that you have, especially with MK Ultra targeted individuals, that's so big. I was thinking to myself, back in the old days, and I know I can probably speak for my ancestors, but probably yours too on some level. My grandmother, I come from a really high-ranking Scottish Rite family on my mother's side, and I look back and I know they had different experiences. I'm sure they had contacting experiences, but we don't have any record of that, right? So when I look and I see, can you imagine the old days if they had groups like yours, where they were able to talk about some of their experiences or their abductions or whatever they went through? I'm sure they didn't have a place to go back then,
No, they didn't, because my family were very careful not to talk about this to anybody else except just our family. With our experiences that we had, because you could be, you could lose a job. You're crazy.
Even today. Yeah.
Yeah, even today, but much more in those days, because it was a little green man and you're crazy.
Yeah. Can you relate to that,
Some
Steve?
people that are fairly accepting of this nowadays, but most are still not. But everybody was not accepting of it years ago.
Yeah, it's changed considerably. And what's interesting is that I think they're looking to see what sells and what's popular, and they're running with it. And so far as just some of the things that I've noticed is they're running with information that seems appealing to the mass collective. And I think one of just like the UFOs are, to me, it's like the paranormal. The paranormal. Remember when that spiked, and everything on mainstream was just like everything is ghost hunters. I mean, everything. And it seems like they're kind of changing it a little bit now that it's all about UFOs, or it's starting to become more about extraterrestrials. And I can take it all with a grain of salt. I think it's great to calibrate people for the new adventure of what we really are. But I think that as you were touching on, there's too much infiltration and redirection. And as we know, usually covert intel runs mainstream media. So if you're getting anything out of them, I mean, with the news articles, it's going to be false. But I've seen the copycats. I've seen copycats, and that's why I don't give 100% of my data out to people when I talk about a lot of what happened to me when I do interviews, because I can kind of gauge everything that way. It's in my books. I mean, a lot of it's in my books. But yeah, I've seen the copycats. I know Miesha has too, and I'm pretty sure you probably have too, Steve. Which is just
and
ridiculous.
actually, I have a sergeant of arms in my group. No one knows who it is, because I come from a different point of view. I'll say I'm a little gullible. It's true, because I think of the very best of people first.
I used to be like that.
and so my heart goes out to somebody who shares and stuff. But then later on, things kind of get weird, and I even go, I'm not sure. So I have a sergeant arms that I talk things over with. And,
that's good. You need to
politely ask people to leave, or
you need to
invite them, right? Because my groups are private. If they don't get an invitation, that means that they're not wanted there.
Well,
that's they don't need to be.
And I've had about other groups I've been in is that they're way too public, and just come one, come all, and all this, and that just doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of people that are real experiencers. Right.
Well, now you can understand why in the old days they had the secret orders of people in the underground, because they probably didn't want the pollution. They didn't want the contamination. I can look at it on a lot of different levels, because I'm coming from a coven background for myself. You have to be vetted for. You have to be somebody has to vouch for you. You can't just waltz into a coven. So it's the same kind of thing. It's just you don't want to spoil or create. How do I even word this right now? You don't want to give people information that they can use, whether it's just they're not evolved enough to use it yet, or they might weaponize it or whatever. And that's what I've seen more and more. But what I've really seen also is that with these people in these agencies and these covert, black science departments, they're really not evolved enough to the state of consciousness they need to be to have access to the technology they're utilizing from day to day. And I think that's the biggest disservice that I've seen right now.
Aliens are worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, they really, because it's stolen. Most of it's been stolen, or they've acquired it illegally, or acquired it through, or extracted it through a contactee or whatever. I'm telling you, these guys are so dirty, it's not even funny. So, but I'm a firm believer these days that you want to keep things in small circles of people that you can really trust, because the rest of them, they're not worth anything. Unfortunately, it's sad but true.
Well, the aliens have access to technology. They're very careful about how they use it, but they have access to technologies that make atomic bombs look like toys, and they don't want those kind of technologies falling into the hands of unevolved people like our government.
And that's the saddest part. And that's why when I look at Antarctica and I look at the UN as an abomination, anything with it, we can't have these people over there, monopolizing anything that's off-world. And that's what's very concerning to me. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of specifics about it. When I had an interview last night, and it was very, very interesting, but with Michael Sala. And he was talking a little bit about the stuff that's going on in Antarctica, but he also did touch on the quote-unquote Nephilim, or his perception of what's happening out there, saying that they're in a stasis and that they're going to one woke up or something like that. Now, I can't confirm any of this, but I will say one thing. Wow. What makes them think that if they were to wake something up out of a stasis that's a very advanced species, that it's going to be their ally? What the hell are they thinking? What Kool-Aid are they drinking? I'm sorry, but if you wake me up out of a stasis and I'm an advanced species and you're a little worm, I'm going to knock you on your what. Okay?
Yeah. The thing of it is, these advanced species are the ones that created us. So why would they think that we would be their equal? They wouldn't. And I would not trust that at all.
Well, when I saw this episode in X-Files, another thing that concerns me is that, do you remember the X-Files movie where they had the ship underneath the ice?
Yep.
Now you could say it's like, okay, well, maybe he had secret intel. Well, it could go either way, or is it disinformation, or is it something to create or set in motion an imagination? I don't know. All I can tell you is that it's very interesting, and I just have to look at it with more scrutiny, and just treat it.
I think they've got all these bases there from many nations to keep an eye on it.
Right. Well, when you have people like even some of the people they sent in our area over there, I would never have sent. Was it John Kerry was over there? I mean, he's like. I don't care with his skull and bones, whatever. He is not qualified to be there. If it's an off-world species, a real off-world species, he has no business being there at all. This is my point. My point is you need to have ambassadors there. You need to have celestials there, hybrids like us, and intelligent people. Okay, I would have my own team out there. This is BS. And some of these people who claim to be part of the Black Space Program, well, I'm kind of looking at them sideways because I'm not really convinced that they are. And I can also go through my own checklist and see if they're telling the truth or not because of what I know about artificial intelligence, because I've been interfaced with it.
I think they'd be killed if they came out and said they were part of the Black Space Program and they really
You
were.
You would think, wouldn't you?
Immediately.
Absolutely.
And the fact of the matter is, or is it just because they want them to run their mouths because of the disinformation, right? So I don't know.
That is
Go ahead.
probably true. Yeah.
You know, I know. And the one thing is, like I said before, just trust your higher self over so super conscious and your direct connections, because this other stuff is getting out of control and it's becoming a circus. It really is. And it turns me off. I hate to tell you, I love the stars. I love the cosmos. I would love to have an observatory and just watch the stars and listen for signals all day. Seriously, I love the stars. But I can't stand the fact that they poisoned everything with this crap that they're doing with some of these. Once again, it's the UFO community. It's not obviously not ours, but it's these other, ass clowns that are out there. So it's really unfortunate that that's happening. And maybe their intentions are good and maybe I'm too harsh on them. I don't know.
Well, an interesting thing I have, I'm doing more and more people who think they're clones, people who are super soldiers. Oops.
We're going to talk about this when we get back. Hold that thought, Miesha. This is Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris, BlueRaven, and my wonderful guests tonight are Miesha Johnston and Steve Colbern. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.